Welcome to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. This week, we chat with representatives from the Rochester Music Hall of Fame and feature music from inductees at the beginning and end of each segment. You can find even more exclusive content on our YouTube and at NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. Now, here's your host, Dom Genova.
Well, welcome to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. It's Saturday, 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180, and here we are with another great show. Now, I have a full office today, studio, with three individuals from the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. And mind you, it's the Rochester Music Hall of Fame, not the Rochester Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. And as everybody knows, this is a great organization. It's been around for a long time, and I have Mr. Jack Whittier with me, who is the president now, right? Is that right?
That is correct. Thanks for having us.
Tony Gross, who is, what is your title?
Whatever hat I'm wearing that day. How's that?
Okay. And we have Karl LaPorta, who's actually, can we call you the founder of the Hall of Fame?
You can do that.
Okay. I think the general population thinks that the Music Hall of Fame was instituted by George Eastman on his deathbed years ago. Oh, Rochester needs a Hall of Fame. And then he passes away and whatever. But it didn't happen that way. I mean, no. Karl, since you were the founder, well, you tell the story. I love your story. I really do.
Well, I guess the way it really started is, and actually, I don't really have too many live brain cells left from living through the 60s. So I don't really know how this one came out. But, being in the music business for a long time, having my dad as a piano teacher, being exposed to all kinds of music, I often wondered with the great talent that Rochester has, or that came from Rochester, and the great music school, the Eastman, along with others, why we didn't have a Rochester Music Hall of Fame. So I decided to write a letter to the editor of the Democrat and Chronicle on, I think it was October 9th, 2009.
Okay.
Somewhere in that vicinity there. And before you know it, these guys and a bunch of other people, they contacted me. We'd love to do it. It's a great idea. And, we just slowly put the organization together. It took a lot of time. I think we started with about 25 guys screaming and yelling at one another at our first meeting. And finally, we were able to whittle it down to the people that we felt, were, serious about this and were willing to walk the walk. And, since then, here we are now. We're going into I believe it's our 10th year, our 10th induction ceremony. And, once again, we're going to have another great show. We've had, starting in 2012, we've had an induction ceremony every year with the exception of the past two because of the pandemic.
What pandemic?
And Karl kind of short sells that a little bit. I mean, it was really Karl's idea. And just a little story. Karl and I got together. I play piano too. Karl tuned my pianos for years. Mm-hmm. And he was over sometime in 2009 and we were talking and he said, I've got this idea, music here in town is great. We should have a Rochester Music Hall of Fame. And looking back, I don't know what I was thinking when I said it. I said, well, that sounds like a really cool idea. If anything ever comes of it, why don't you let me know? I'd love to help out. And of course, like a month later, he's like, all right, we're on you in. And we went from there and really started trying to put the organization together. But I mean, Karl was really the driving force behind getting this organized. And we went through a lot. I mean, the first couple of years were a real challenge to kind of put things together. But, Karl's leadership and ability to bring, the right people together is really the reason that we kind of took off and made this happen.
Well, I tell people about Karl's story all the time, is that somebody just making a decision to do something. I mean, it's that. It's just making a decision to do something and then following through with it. It compels a question, though. You had 25 people initially. So where did these people come out? I mean, did you know these people? Did you invite them? Did they contact the paper? I mean, how do you get that many people interested right away?
Well, a lot of them saw the article, and little by little, the word got around. And, we decided to have a meeting, and there were some people that showed up that I didn't even know, because the word spread. And like I said, we sat down at that meeting and we laid out the framework of what we should do. The big issue was, I think there were some that wanted to keep it, let's have it every year in a bar or something like that. And that wasn't the idea. The idea was to make this, worthy of something like the Grammys, have it at the best possible venue, which was the Eastman Theater, and make it first class. And I think that is a big reason why we've been able to bring in some of the best musicians and inductees and accompanying musicians.
You decided to make it into a brand which had a certain dignity and respect to it. It sounds like any other big award show. So let's play a little bit of. Let's have you guys brag a little bit. I mean, tell us some of the awardees that the recipients that everybody knows about.
Well, we've had Cab Calloway, Gene Cornish from the Rascals. We've had Joe English from Paul McCartney and Wings. We've had Lou Graham. We've had Henry Juskowitz. Now, there's a name that he's not a musician, but he was the president and CEO of Gibson Guitars.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
He was. And we have had.
He went to Bishop Kearney, didn't he?
Yeah. And his son House was from Rochester. Pee Wee Ellis. We've had Wendy O. Williams from the Plasmatics, posthumously, of course, but her band came in. James Rado, one of the co-creators of Hair. Yeah. So the Kyle Sills came in from him. That was the only event that I was not here for, actually.
And that show ran like clockwork, if I remember.
I feel something coming on here. Go ahead and say it.
No, no, come on.
I was actually calling shots from Colorado.
There you go.
Mike Dornberger was on the phone with me saying, okay, what do I do now?
So it's people it's like what I say about the show. It's people you know, and then some people that you don't know that have tremendous backstories, or they've been involved in the business in such a way that it influenced the music. Well, both in Rochester and nationally, right? I mean,
exactly. For instance, this year one of our inductees is Michael Iacona of Whirlwind. Now, Whirlwind is literally in every live music venue, most likely any large hotel, soccer stadiums all over the world. Their connectivity. Pardon me?
The Pentagon.
Exactly. It started out with guitar cables, and now Whirlwind is a major employer in Greece, and they are still, highly sought after, still everywhere. Chances are you have a piece of Whirlwind in here that you don't even know about.
It takes a lot of planning to do one of these presentations, but I mean, it must take most of the year just to do the presentation, right?
Well, we kind of run. It's usually done. We usually have the ceremony at the end of April. This year it's May 1st. We take a couple month break from that, but by September, we're reviewing to see, who's going to be inducted. We have an induction committee, so they get together and figure out, who's going to be inducted, and we're kind of off and running from there. It gets pretty intensive once the calendar turns to January, and from like February through the end of April, we're meeting weekly usually, and we go.
And we're about ready to head into a break, but let's do some retail before we do that. The presentation this year is?
This year we are on Sunday, May 1st at Kodak Hall at Eastman Theater. The show starts at 7 o'clock. You can go to our website, rochestermusic.org. There's a button there that says Get Tickets. That'll take you right to the Eastman box office website.
Well, I love selling things, and we're going to sell more stuff after this.
How'd you like to blow your top? Dig yourself some fine rebop. Hidey, hi, heedy, oh, the hidey ho, man, that's me. Hidey, 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 hi. Hidey, hidey, hi. Heedy, heedy, heedy.
Well, welcome back. You're listening to No Nonsense Roundtable. We're talking to gentlemen from the Rochester Music Hall of Fame, Jack Whittier, Karl LaPorta, and Tony Gross. And we were talking about that the Hall of Fame isn't a rock and roll Hall of Fame, it is a music Hall of Fame. And so it has a lot more depth than just people that are performers, or people in the background of the music business, and people that have had experiences, contributions that you may not know about. And they might not have been on the top of your mind, but significant contributions nonetheless. So let's talk about that a little bit, about the people that you've had that might be in that category, but also the selection criteria, because it's the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. So does somebody necessarily have to have some background to have lived in Rochester itself?
Yeah, so our criteria really is, somebody that has lived here, has spent time here, has made significant music contributions. One of the trickiest ones we have are the students that come through the Eastman School of Music. So some of them are here for 4 years and they leave and they go on to great things. And when we get into that discussion, we really look for Eastman grads that have maintained ties to the area. So like Tony Levin is a really good example of that. He's not from here. He came to school here, but he's been back here a ton of times. He connected with Steve Gadd, who was from here and lived here a long time. So we try to weigh those, and we've had some that have spent just maybe 4 to 5 years here. You've got others like Chuck and Gap Mangione who have lived there here their whole lives. So we do have a selection committee for that, and they kind of vet that out and figure out, we have all sorts of people that we consider for this from every music genre, and then we kind of go through the process to say, okay, is this person got the ties here? That's kind of the first kind of gate that people walk through, and then we kind of go from there.
So what are some of the attributes you're looking for in somebody that you're considering to be inducted? It's not just popularity. I mean, this isn't just selling the most records or whatever.
Well, at the very beginning, we had another board member, Bill Hunt, who did all this research and actually has like about a 70-page Word document file with potential inductees, and I think we've got like over 250 people on that list. So we start with that. People go to our website and they make other suggestions, and then from the other board members, we've had other people come up, but we're looking for somebody that it's not the Hall of the Very Good. It's the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. So we're really looking for a career's worth of work that has made an impact both locally and in most cases nationally in the music scene, and been a real contribution, whether it's a performer, a composer. Sam Adler was a composer from Eastman. He was a professor there. He was inducted. He's one of the better known kind of 20th century classical composers. We've got contributors like Tony mentioned, Michael Liacona. This year we have Mick Gazowski, who is a sound engineer who's won 11 Grammys.
Yeah, actually Mick is a mixer and a sound engineer, and he has the most hit records of any other mixer out there in the world. And he's from Rochester.
Well, you were talking about an individual, I forgot whose name you were talking about, who with the Broadway shows.
Oh, Charles Strauss. So he was one of our charter inductees. He went to Eastman School of Music, and he wrote the musical, the music for the musicals Annie, Bye Bye Birdie, and probably one of the lesser known things. So see, he wrote the opening song for the sitcom All in the Family, where Archie and Edith are singing at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, and you find people like that. I mean, even somebody that we all know, like Ferdinand J. I mean, look at Ferdinand J. and he wrote the theme song for
HBO.
Yeah, and many others too, right?
Like the Olympics and the ABC Movie of the Week, and done a gazillion commercials. But yeah, it was neat when we did that. His segment went a little long, and we can talk about that. But it was
nobody smacked each other, so I mean,
right, but
there was no felony on stage, so
no,
it's fine.
There was none of that. But it was kind of neat to have a live orchestra there, and you're playing like all these jingles from commercials, and like the theme music from the ABC Movie of the Week or the HBO thing. It's like, this is real music. It just doesn't kind of come on for 30 seconds, and it's tough music. I mean, they had to rehearse really hard for that.
Well, then you have people with dual careers, like you have Chuck Bricado, who recorded He recorded in Barry Gordy's studio at Motown, and then he went out to do a lot of jingles. And let's see, which one did he do? Oh, Genesee Valley. Yeah, the Genesee Valley, most famous one he ever did. Which But it's the dealership I used to own.
Right.
Yeah.
But we had a guy named Jack Alaka, a little lesser known name around here. However, Jack has had the ASCAP Award like 10 years in a row for most synchronized music on TV. He has over 20,000 hours of synchronized music doing Young and the Restless and Bold and Beautiful. Everything you hear.
Well, yeah, he won like, I don't know, 7 daytime Emmys for writing soap opera theme music for like The Young and the Restless and The Bold and the Beautiful. He wrote the theme music for those
and a whole bunch
soap
of movies.
operas.
Yeah.
And Gary Wright, remember the guy who sang Dreamweaver?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came in and sang. Jack put together a great score, and we had Nazareth Orchestra behind it, and Gary Wright sang Dreamweaver. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I think one of the points here that Jack was as an example, he was talking about Ferdy and everything that he's did, but there were a lot of people that just thought of him as a DJ on WBBF or some of the other, and this is part of the education process. People, well, why are you inducting this guy? This is all he did. Well, no, that's not true. And I could, most of our inductees have the same body of work. They're not just a one-trick pony.
Well, that goes in the column that I call "Who Knew." It's like me. It's like me meeting you. Who knew? How did I meet you, by the way? You came on my show, so somebody else comes on my show, so somebody else comes on my show. I have no idea.
Was it Uber Eats?
Somebody recommended me.
I don't know.
Somebody told you about me, and you called me. And I don't think you're friends with that guy anymore.
Yeah, that could. Yeah, I think I know who we're talking about. So we got about a minute and a half leading into the news break. But the thing is that you see people that have all these behind the scenes attributes, and it's not necessarily like I said. The Hall of Fame has very few people who aren't ball players. But you have a lot of people who are not necessarily musicians.
That's correct. We also recognize institutions that have had global impact.
Oh, good. Explain some. Yeah.
Well, the Eastman.
Yeah.
For one.
There you go.
Eastman's going to be. They're being inducted this year. We've inducted WDKX. I mean, they are. I think. One of the first minority-owned radio stations, and they're still independent, which is a rarity these days.
Yeah, that's very interesting though, because it really is. I mean, this is more than just singers and songwriters.
Yep, for sure. House of Guitars. We inducted the House of Guitars.
Oh, what a place that is. And if anybody hasn't gone there, you need to go to the House of Guitars. I had a friend of mine that brought me there the other day for the first time. It was you.
Oh, it was
it was you. Yeah, you met me down there. Yeah.
Didn't they come out on a tricycle when we inducted them?
They did.
They came out on a tricycle when we inducted them. It was awesome. It was awesome.
I think Armin was wearing rabbit ears.
Yes.
Yes.
He was.
Perfect.
Well, at that, we're going to find out what's happening in the world, and we'll be right back after that.
Beautiful morning.
Well, welcome back to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host, and I'm here with 3 individuals from the Rochester Music Hall of Fame: Jack Whittier, Tony Gross, and Karl LaPorta. And as everybody knows that listens to the show, knows at the bottom of the hour, I like to give a shout out to the Bob Johnson Auto Group for sponsoring the show. Great place to buy a car, buy a truck, or get a car or truck fixed. And they have my recommendation and my thanks for sponsoring the show. Now, we were talking before the break about the different people that have been honorees in the music business. You don't necessarily have to be a performer. You can be somebody in the background doing production and whatever. But we were talking also about the presentation itself. It's a world-class presentation. It is classy. It is at the Kodak Eastman Theater, rather. And
Kodak Hall at Eastman Theater. They like us to get the
yeah, okay. Okay, let's do a little more retail. It's coming up when?
It is coming up Sunday, May 1st at Kodak Hall at Eastman Theater, 7 p.m. You can go to our website, rochestermusic.org, hit the Get Tickets button. It'll take you to the Eastman Theater box office, and you can pick out your seat.
And you've had some wonderful, memorable moments. I know we're going to put some of these at the end of the YouTube when we publish this as YouTube at the end of the show. But I know we were talking before the show about some of them were kind of surprising and neat. So tell me your favorite.
Well, we had the year we inducted Steve Gadd and Tony Levin. Now, both of them had played with Paul Simon. Mm-hmm. So Steve Gadd was the drummer on 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. And late in the evening, both Steve and Tony played. Tony actually came up with the bass riff at the beginning of that song. So Steve Gadd plays with James Taylor all the time, Eric Clapton. So we kind of put our feelers out, and our good friend Bruce Pilato connected with Paul Simon's people. So we got Paul Simon to come in for the show, but there was one stipulation. We couldn't advertise it. Mm-hmm. So, and we kind of had to sneak him in. So the day of the show, was Sunday, Karl and I go out to the airport, and Paul came in on a private plane with his people. We got him, situated. We were actually walking back through the airport, and somebody looked at us and like, is that who I think that was? And we said, probably, but you never saw him. So we snuck him into Eastman Theater for rehearsal. We got him a room at the Strath Allen. It was actually under my name. The interesting thing from there was, so he was leaving before the show was over. He did his thing, and he started practicing for his reunion tour the next day down in New York City, so he had to fly back. So Doug Emblich was actually emceeing the event for us, and he needed a place to stay because he does the morning news. So I called up Doug and said, we got you a room at the Strath, but you can't have it until after the show, and I'll tell you why afterwards, because we didn't tell him that Paul Simon was coming in. And I said, oh, by the way, you're staying in Paul Simon's room. Uh-huh. And he really liked that.
Well, there was a story about him being on stage too, right? I mean, Karl, tell us that story about Paul Simon on stage.
He walks out on stage and the crowd went crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a standing ovation and they wouldn't stop. So finally he raises his hands up and he, everybody quiets down and you could hear a pin drop and he goes, requests? And everybody starts screaming and yelling again and yeah. And he puts his hands up again and everybody stops and he goes, I don't do requests. And everybody got a good chuckle out of that, but he put on a great show.
He was great.
So what's the most challenging thing about putting the show together? Is it
Tony?
Tony, tell me what your challenges are.
Logistics, pure logistics, and especially this year because coming out of COVID, everyone's schedule is screwed up. They all had force majeure portions in their contracts, and all the concerts that were missed before they had to make up. So finding people to come in on a specific date with, back in December was nearly impossible because they didn't have their schedule set. So everything is last minute. Well,
and the other thing, once we have the lineup set, we have a very, very tight program schedule. But you know what happens when people get out on stage. It doesn't always go according to script. So we've had some very interesting moments that way, too.
Yeah, well, most of the time it goes as scripted. It's scripted to the minute, like a TV show.
All right, let me ask you a question you probably don't want to answer. Who's the biggest Panda Tuckus that you've nominated, that you've had at the in the thing?
Bruce Pilato. Hi, Bruce. Coffee soon.
Great answer.
Oh, we've yelled at each other backstage, because when the train starts running away, I'm the guy with the hook. I have to pull it back on the tracks, and he'll be saying, and he will be fighting for whoever's on stage. And I'll say, you can't pull that old lady in a wheelchair off stage. I go, well, yes, I can. So all those kinds of things. We have to keep the show on schedule as much as we can, and it always. It usually goes over a little bit, except when I'm not there.
Yeah. And the one of the best moments. So we inducted WDKX, and we had a real all-star lineup of R&B performers, and one of them was Kathy Sledge. So Tony, tell us about what happened with her on stage. It was awesome.
Okay, first of all, we had Russell Tompkins Jr. from the Stylistics, and we had Reggie from the Impressions, and Kathy Sledge on stage. and they are just jamming. And Kathy didn't really know that she was supposed to, stick to like a 3 to 4 or 5 minute segment. 20 minutes later, people are on stage dancing. She's just pulling people up, and it is almost a free for all. And you know what? It was so much fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Unscripted fun.
And Tony was pulling his hair out.
Oh yeah, look at.
Yeah,
I see. We're in the same business.
Yeah, we're in the same. Yeah, we're in the same business. Yeah. So anybody who wants to know, Bruce Pilato was on my show on July 10th of 2021. So if you want to see Bruce and see, actually he was not a pan that took us with me, but you can see the show on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. Just go download the show. So we were talking about your the presentation, but also you have some video that we're going to put at the end of this show, and give people some hints about what's in that video.
Well, a little bit of what I just talked about, that little segment, and we have a little bit of Charles Strauss, and we have, of course, Paul Simon. We have another surprise was Daughtry. Daughtry came with Elvia, who was also on your show. Yeah, and Lou Gramm. So,
So, one of the great visuals. So you got Lou Gramm from Foreigner, right? And he comes out to accept his award in a 3-piece suit and tie, and he's singing "I Want to Know Where Love Is" in a 3-piece suit. It was awesome.
So how many of these guys can you get to come in to be guests on my show? I mean, this is the first time I've actually tried extortion.
Wait a minute! If you keep giving us gifts like when we walked in today, we'll keep coming back.
Yeah, well, I know Gary Craig is listening. I gave each of these gentlemen a book of 7 Million, which is now a documentary on the Discovery Plus channel. There's I should be getting paid for this.
I know,
but I'm not. I don't take stuff for free.
If you get paid for that, maybe I should get paid for using the cover of the book as a sound check.
Well, there you go. There you go. So we're about ready to head into another break, and when we come back, we're going to try to sell more tickets for you and get more people to come to the show. How about that? Is that okay?
Great idea.
Okay, it's a great idea. Well, we'll be right back right after this.
Heard the roar of the crowd. He could picture the scene. Put his ear to the wall. Then like a distant scream, he heard one guitar. Just blew him away. Saw stars in his eyes. How can I be sure?
Well, welcome back. You're listening to No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova here with 3 individuals from the Rochester Music Hall of Fame: Jack Whittier, Karl LaPorta, and Tony Gross. I think I changed the.
You did change the order.
I change the order all the time. Yeah,
that's okay.
I have no idea why. I have no idea why I do half the stuff I do. But we were talking about stories, and you were recounting some really cool stories during the break. Now, who wants to tell the first story about whatever?
I'll take that one. So every year, the Friday before our show, we do a media day. So we usually start out at one of the TV stations, and we make the rounds to the TV stations and the radio stations. So one year we were inducting the Campbell brothers. So we did our TV thing, and we're off to iHeartRadio. We're going to be on Wham, and we were on with Wheeze and everything. So we're in this big van. We got Steve Gadd, we got Tony Levin, we got the Campbell brothers, Carl and I there. So we're driving, and we're like, okay, when we get here, so and so's going over to Wheeze's show, and I say to the Campbell brothers, you guys are going to come with me and Carl and go on Lonsberry's show. And Chuck Campbell's like, we got to go on Lonsberry's show. I can't stand that guy. He's like, when I hear him on the radio, I want to throw my radio through the freaking wall. And we're like, don't worry. We've been on Bob's show a bunch of times. We just stick to the music. We don't get into politics, whatever. It's one segment. We got a 15-minute segment after the news. We'll be done. So we go, and we get on the air, and we get through the first segment, and everybody's doing great. They come in and they're like, Wheeze is running long. You guys are delayed. Chuck says, hey, we'll stick with Bob the whole hour if we have to, because we're having a great time. So they start going at we wish we could have played everything off the air, but they kind of got into it, and they kind of bonded, and they were a little bit different, but at one point, Bob turns to Chuck and says, "Well, Chuck, I heard you retired and moved to Florida. You ditched us up here in New York State. What's the deal with that?" And Chuck shoots back and says, "Well, I think you'll appreciate this, Bob. There's no state income taxes down in Florida, so we decided to retire there." And that just set Bob over the edge. And by the end of the hour, we spent an hour on the air with him. And we got done. They're hugging each other. Like, this was great. We got to talk about stuff. It was just a really fun hour, and it kind of showed. Music. We say a lot of times that music kind of brings people together, and they really focused more on what they had in common as opposed to their differences. And it was kind of like a microcosm of a great conversation. And they really enjoyed chatting with each other. It was a great hour of radio. It was fun.
If you could only get world leaders to come on,
no kidding.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be we wouldn't be in the sad state we are now.
I know. Well,
yeah, there you go.
But it was great.
Yeah, Tony told me a pretty funny story. We were inducting Joe English, who was the drummer for Paul McCartney and Wings, and Joe grew up in my side of town. We played together in high school and yada yada. But at any rate. His wife, now they're both religious. I mean, off the charts religious. So she is going to do the introduction speech for Joe. And she's, what am I going to do? And she's talking to Tony, and I talk about religion and this and that. And Tony turns to her and says, "Remember, Jesus said you only have 2 minutes."
I actually forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
There's an awful lot of stories, but I have a kind story. So I'm going to go back to Paul Simon. When Paul Simon was in, I was warned, okay, this guy's really tough. It's Paul Simon. He's been through a lot. He just comes in. He could be a bull in a china shop. You got to be careful. You always keep your guard up. He was so nice. He looks at me. He gives me both his guitars and said, "Will you watch these? I want to take a nap."
Wow.
So, yeah, and so I'm watching these guitars that say Paul Simon, going, he doesn't even know who I am. This is great. So there was a beautiful time. Paul Simon was always a hero.
Well, and we had Paul Schaefer come in for Lou Soloff. So Lou Soloff was the trumpet player in Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And he went to Eastman. Unfortunately, he had passed away 2 years before we inducted him. So he had played with Paul Schaefer in the Saturday Night Live band years ago. So we got Paul to come in and play. And Jimmy Richmond, who's our music director, he's the leader of Primetime Funk, a local band. He tells the story that Paul Schaefer reached out to him before he came in for rehearsals, and he said, "Can you send me a list of the names of the people in the band and what instrument they played?" So Paul Schaefer shows up that day, and the first thing he did when he walked on stage, he went to every member of the band and said their name, said, "Hi, I'm Paul Schaefer. It's really a pleasure to be here with you." I mean, it was a really, really nice touch. It kind of really shows you what a lot of these musicians will do and how much it means to them to make music together.
So, do you give them the full Rochester experience, garbage plates and all this other stuff? And
if they want it,
they don't ask for it.
Some do.
Have you ever had any unusual requests from your inductees? Have to take all the brown M&Ms out of the out of the dish or whatever.
I don't think so.
Well, Donna was she was elected to do the shopping for Paul Simon.
Yeah.
And
Donna, your wife.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And at any rate, he drinks a special kind of tea, and everything that that they put in the tea has to be organic. And he's all these roots and whatever, ginger, whatever it is. And so Donna's running to every store in the city to try and find everything to please him. And so finally, after half a day of running around, we got everything that he needed for himself. But, that's what we've always done is we've treated our inductees and the musicians that have come in like gold.
Yeah.
We roll out the red carpet for them, basically.
Yeah.
They can't believe the experience.
Well, let me ask you another thing. Is it just the culture in Rochester, or is it that other communities the size of ours just don't do this? I mean, is it special here?
I think we as Karl said, we kind of got started in 2009. We didn't have our first induction ceremony till 2012, and we really took that time to figure out how can we make this special for each inductee, and how can we make it a great night of music that the Rochester community would be, really proud of. And I always feel like I walk out of that night feeling an extra, little skip in my step, because I'm just really proud of what we can show off about Rochester, and show how much music means to our community and how it's a real community asset.
Well, it's certainly a source of pride for the community. I have to tell you, and what I think is absolutely wonderful, the God's honest truth, is that, Karl, it was because you had the gumption to write a letter to the editor of a paper. And I try telling young people this. I mean, they're people that have really great experiences, great careers, great lives, and they've operated underneath the waves, and you guys are doing this stuff. It's great, and we have about a minute left, so let's sell some more tickets.
Sure. So again, our show is Sunday, May 1st at Kodak Hall at Eastman Theater at 7 o'clock. You can go to our website, rochestermusic.org. You hit the Get Tickets button. That will take you to the Eastman Theater box office website, and there you can go select your seat. We've got tickets ranging from $31 all the way up to $91. Pick your favorite seat in the Eastman Theater and check us out, and we look forward to seeing you on May 1st.
And go ahead.
Oh, Dom, you know what? I'm going to give you the first opportunity. We have an element of surprise coming in that people don't know. So this is the first time we're going to talk about this. The band Fishbone is coming in from Michael Liacona and Whirlwind.
All right.
And they are outrageous, and they're amazing.
All right, and at the end of this broadcast, we're producing a YouTube, so you'll see some visuals on this, and I guarantee there will be a picture of Bruce Pilato in this special presentation, so everybody will see what he looks like. And thank you, guys, for coming in. I appreciate it. Good luck on your presentation. Karl, you wanted to say the last word?
Yeah, I really want to thank you on behalf of the Music Hall of Fame. You've been very supportive of us and of music in general in Rochester, and it's very much appreciated.
Well, I just love you guys. And next week, same time, same place. Thanks for listening.
Board of Directors is proud to induct Charles Strauss into the Rochester Music Hall of Fame, class of 2012.
It's the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us. Tomorrow, I love you tomorrow.